You are way too fat. I can't take it anymore. This is my new wife, so get out now, you fat woman.
He threw her out, laughed at her and shamed her in public for being too fat. What happened next will shock you. Like, subscribe, and comment where you are watching from. We would really like to know how far this video traveled too. In the town of Ayatoro, lived a man named Hayden and his wife Kate. Their story had once been the kind people pointed to as proof that love and loyalty could build an empire. When Kate married Hayden 12 years earlier, he had very little to his name. He owned a struggling construction supply business and a warehouse that leaked whenever the rainy season came. There were days when he returned home frustrated and defeated, and Kate would sit beside him on their thin mattress, encouraging him with unwavering faith. "You will succeed," she would tell him. "You just need time." And she meant it. Kate stood beside him through everything. When suppliers refused to trust him, she used her savings to help secure goods. When workers quit, she helped manage inventory herself. When he doubted his abilities, she reminded him of his vision. She carried not only his burdens but also his dreams. Then came children, two beautiful blessings who filled their modest home with laughter. Pregnancy changed Kate's body. Long nights caring for babies, stress from managing the household, and years of putting herself last slowly added weight to her frame. Her once slim waist thickened. Her cheeks grew fuller. But her heart remained the same, steady, kind, loyal. As the years passed, Hayden's business began to thrive. Contracts grew larger. He expanded into Lagos. The leaking warehouse became a modern facility. He moved his family into a larger house in a more prestigious area of town. Wealth changed their lifestyle and quietly, it began changing Hayden too. It started subtly. He became more conscious of appearances. He upgraded his wardrobe, bought expensive watches, and insisted on attending high-profile events. At those events, he noticed other CEOs' wives slim, polished, draped in designer gowns. He began comparing. At first, his comments toward Kate were disguised as concern. "You should join a gym," he suggested casually one evening. "It would be good for your health." Kate smiled gently. "Maybe I will. Things have just been busy." But the comments didn't stop. They sharpened. "You've gained a lot of weight these past few years. Look at your pot bell. Don't you think you should try harder? You used to care more about how you looked. What is happening now?" Each sentence felt like a tiny cut. Kate tried dieting. She tried waking early to walk before the children rose. But managing a growing household while supporting Hayden's demanding schedule left little room for self-care. And deep down, what hurt most was not the weight, it was the feeling that she was no longer enough. One night, Hayden attended a corporate gala in Lagos and insisted Kate come along. She spent hours preparing. She chose a flowing navy dress that complemented her curves and styled her hair carefully. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a woman who had aged gracefully, who had endured much, who had strength in her eyes. But at the gala, she noticed the way Hayden kept his distance. He didn't hold her hand. He introduced her quickly and then drifted toward slimmer women who laughed too loudly at his jokes. She felt invisible standing beside the man she had built her life around. The ride home was silent. Tension filled the car like thick smoke. When they pulled into their driveway, Hayden finally spoke. "You didn't look appropriate tonight," he said coldly. Kate turned slowly. "What do you mean?" "I mean you don't fit the image anymore, Kate. Look at yourself. Look at the other women there." Her chest tightened. "I am your wife. And I need a wife who reflects where I am now," he replied bluntly. The words struck harder than any slap. Kate stared at him, searching for the man she once knew. The man who used to thank her for believing in him. But pride had hardened his face. "After everything," she whispered. "After building this with you." He avoided her eyes. "People change. You are no more my type." That night, Kate cried silently while Hayden slept facing the opposite wall. Over the next few weeks, Hayden became distant. He stayed out late. He guarded his phone carefully. Rumors began circulating that he had been seen frequently with a young, slim event planner who organized corporate functions. Kate heard the whispers from neighbors. She felt the stares in the market. Still, she held on to hope that her husband would remember who she was to him. But hope shattered the afternoon he called her into the living room and spoke with chilling calmness. "I think you should go back to your father's house for some time," he said. She blinked in confusion. "For what reason?" "I need space. This marriage isn't working anymore." Her voice trembled. "Because I gained weight." He didn't answer. His silence confirmed everything. 12 years of loyalty reduced to a number on a scale. The next morning, Kate packed quietly. Word spread quickly through Ayatoro. Women whispered angrily. Elderly men shook their heads in disappointment. Sending a wife away for such a reason was seen as cruel, especially one who had sacrificed so much. Kate hugged her children tightly, promising them her love would never change. She walked out of the gate with 2 suitcases, her children, and dignity that barely masked her heartbreak. Hayden watched her leave, convincing himself it was necessary. He told himself he deserved better. He told himself he had outgrown her. Within months, he began openly dating the slim event planner. He posted pictures online. He attended events with her proudly on his arm. The town buzzed with gossip, but Hayden ignored it. Meanwhile, in her father's modest home, Kate sat on her childhood bed and stared at the ceiling. She replayed every sacrifice she had made and every insult she had endured. Pain coursed through her, but beneath it, something stronger began forming: resolve. She realized she had spent years building Hayden's empire while neglecting her own potential. If he believed she was not enough, she would become more than enough. Not for him, but for herself. That night, through tears, Kate made a quiet promise: she would rebuild her life, her confidence, and her future. She did not yet know how dramatically her story would change. But destiny had already begun moving. And in Ayatoro, nothing stayed hidden forever. The first weeks back in her father's house felt like walking through fog. Kate woke each morning to the familiar sounds of her childhood. Roosters crowing, women sweeping compounds, radios playing early morning gospel songs, yet everything felt different. She was not the carefree girl who once lived there. She was a woman sent away by her husband. In Ayatoro, people tried to hide their curiosity, but whispers always traveled. Some pitied her. Some blamed her. Some said, if she had kept herself better, this wouldn't have happened. Others defended her fiercely. But Kate learned quickly that if she listened to every voice, she would lose her mind. At night, when the house grew quiet, the humiliation replayed in her thoughts. Hayden's words echoed louder in the dark. "You don't fit the image anymore." For days she cried, not because she believed him, but because she had loved him deeply. Love does not disappear overnight. It fades painfully, like a wound that refuses to close. But something shifted one morning while she was helping her father sort produce from his small farm. As she carried baskets under the sun, sweat running down her face, she caught her reflection in a metal basin filled with water. She looked tired. But she also saw strength. She realized something that had been buried beneath years of marriage: she had always been capable. She had helped build a successful business before. She understood logistics, suppliers, negotiation. She had simply never claimed credit. That afternoon, she sat with her father. "Papa," she began carefully, "I don't want to just stay here and hide. I want to work." Her father studied her quietly. He was not a wealthy man, but he was wise. "What kind of work?" he asked. "The kind that grows," she replied. "The kind that is mine." Through a family connection, Kate secured a short professional course in agricultural supply chain management in the nearby city. It wasn't glamorous. She traveled by bus. She studied late at night. She ignored the few classmates who whispered about her failed marriage. But learning awakened something inside her. She began to see opportunities everywhere: gaps in distribution systems, inefficiencies in rural produce transport, untapped partnerships between farms and urban markets. She wasn't just rebuilding her body. She was rebuilding her mind. At the same time, she began caring for herself differently. Not out of shame. Not to prove Hayden wrong. But because she deserved health and confidence. She started walking each evening. Then light workouts. She adjusted her eating habits gradually and sustainably. The weight did not disappear overnight. But slowly, steadily, her body changed. Her face sharpened. Her energy increased. Most importantly, her posture shifted. She walked like a woman reclaiming space. Months turned into a year. Kate partnered with a women-led agricultural cooperative that aimed to modernize rural produce distribution. She worked tirelessly, using everything she had learned from her years supporting Hayden's business. She negotiated contracts. She improved storage systems. She introduced digital inventory tracking. Investors began noticing. One investor in particular took interest, a calm, thoughtful businessman named Daniel. Unlike the flashy executives Kate once encountered beside Hayden, Daniel valued substance over surface. During meetings, he listened carefully when she spoke. He asked about her ideas, not her past. "You understand this industry deeply," he told her one afternoon after a presentation. "You think long-term." Kate smiled modestly. Experience teaches you what textbooks cannot. Their professional partnership strengthened. Under joint leadership, the cooperative expanded into a full-scale agricultural processing company serving multiple states. Profits grew. Jobs were created. Communities benefited. 2 years after she walked out of Hayden's house with her children and 2 suitcases, Kate stood inside a newly constructed office building, glass windows, polished floors, a view overlooking acres of farmland contracted under her company. She had been appointed operations director. On the day of her official appointment, she chose a tailored cream suit. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She was fit now, not fragile, not starved, but strong. Confident. Radiant. Her phone buzzed occasionally with updates about her children, whom she co-parented peacefully despite everything. She never spoke badly of Hayden to them. She refused to poison their hearts. Meanwhile, news from Ayatoro traveled. Hayden's business had begun to struggle. A major contract fell through. The event planner he flaunted publicly turned out to be more interested in luxury than loyalty. Their relationship grew strained as money tightened. Kate heard these updates through distant acquaintances, but she did not dwell on them. Her focus remained forward. One evening, after a long board meeting, Daniel walked her to her car. "You've built something remarkable," he said sincerely. "We built it," she corrected. He paused. "Kate, may I ask you something personal?" She hesitated but nodded. "After everything you went through, how did you not become bitter?" She thought for a moment before answering. "Because bitterness would have kept me tied to someone who already let me go. I chose myself instead." Daniel smiled softly, admiration clear in his eyes. That night, as Kate drove home under a golden sunset, she felt peace, real peace. Not the fragile peace of pretending everything was fine. But the deep peace that comes from knowing you survived something that was meant to break you. She no longer cried at night. She no longer replayed Hayden's insults. She no longer felt ashamed of her body or her past. She had become more than the woman he discarded. She had become a force. And somewhere not far away, Hayden was about to face the consequences of confusing growth with upgrade. Because destiny has a way of circling back. And soon, their worlds would collide again. 2 years had passed since Kate walked away from Hayden's life, carrying only her dignity and her dreams. In that time, the woman who had once been overlooked, dismissed, and mocked had become unrecognizable not only in appearance but in spirit and influence. She was fit, poised, and radiated a quiet authority that demanded respect without a word of arrogance. Hayden, on the other hand, had been struggling silently. The initial months after Kate's departure had felt like freedom. He paraded his new partner at every social function, flaunted his supposed upgrade, and entertained the admiration of shallow acquaintances. But reality, as it often does, has a way of humbling even the proudest of men. The slim event planner he had been so infatuated with was neither loyal nor competent in business. She demanded luxuries Hayden could no longer afford, and their relationship began to crumble under the weight of financial mismanagement and public embarrassment. Meanwhile, his once thriving construction supply company suffered setbacks. Contracts were lost due to poor management, suppliers grew wary, and investors began pulling out. Hayden's confidence, once solid as a rock, now wavered daily. It was during this period of desperation that Hayden heard about the rise of a new agricultural processing company in the region. Word spread quickly through business circles that this company, led by a capable and intelligent director, had expanded rapidly, securing contracts that other firms had failed to manage. Operations Director, the newspaper had called her. A young woman transforming agriculture in our state. Hayden's curiosity was piqued, tinged with something he had not felt in years: unease. He did not yet know that the woman the article spoke of was Kate. A month later, Hayden received an urgent phone call from a former investor who had lost faith in him. "We have an opportunity to rescue the company," the investor said. "There's a joint venture with the new agricultural firm. If we don't act fast, we'll lose everything." Hayden, desperate, agreed. He scheduled a meeting in the city office of the agricultural firm, not knowing, not even imagining, who he would find behind the desk. On the morning of the meeting, Hayden prepared meticulously. He wore his best suit, polished his shoes, and rehearsed his speech as if his life depended on it, and, in truth, it did. His hands were slightly clammy as he entered the modern office building, glass walls gleaming, the floor polished to perfection, reflecting the sunlight streaming in. Employees moved with purpose, their confidence contrasting sharply with Hayden's nervous energy. And then he saw her. Kate. She stood behind a large executive desk, reviewing documents, her posture straight, her gaze commanding. Her hair was styled elegantly. Her cream suit was tailored perfectly, accentuating her fit frame. Her eyes, calm and confident, locked onto him as if she had been expecting this moment all along. Hayden's heart stuttered. He had never imagined that the woman he discarded would become someone so formidable, so untouchable. "Good morning," Kate said, her voice even, professional. No warmth. No bitterness. Just authority. "Kate," Hayden's voice faltered. "Please, take a seat," she said, gesturing toward a chair across from her desk. Her composure left Hayden feeling smaller than he had in years. He swallowed. I'm here regarding the joint venture." Kate nodded. "Yes. I've reviewed your proposal. Sit down, and we'll go over the details." The meeting began. Hayden explained his company's losses, the potential partnership, and his plan to recover. Kate listened carefully, occasionally asking pointed questions about logistics, costs, and timelines. She didn't smile, she didn't mock, she didn't give him the slightest hint that she remembered the past personally. She treated him as she would any professional seeking her approval. Hayden realized quickly that this was a different Kate. No longer the soft, submissive wife who had tolerated his criticisms and walked away quietly. This Kate was sharp, intelligent, commanding. She dissected his business plan with precision, highlighting flaws he had overlooked, offering suggestions that made him realize how unprepared he truly was. And yet, Hayden could not deny that he was still drawn to her presence. Something in the way she carried herself, her quiet confidence, her unwavering gaze, unsettled him more than any criticism ever could. After an hour of discussion, Kate leaned back and spoke. "Mr. Hayden, your proposal is lacking in several areas. If you want to proceed with this venture, I will require you to revise it according to the points we discussed. Then we can reconsider your participation." Hayden felt a chill run down his spine. He had expected sympathy, perhaps an easy path to salvage his failing company. Instead, he was being held accountable by the woman he had once thrown aside. Kate's assistant entered with documents, and Hayden could feel the weight of her calm authority pressing down on him. He realized something crucial. She no longer needed him. She had built something remarkable, independent of his presence, independent of his approval. As he left the office, Hayden's mind raced. Regret, disbelief, and longing mingled together in a storm he could not control. He wanted to apologize. He wanted to explain himself. But he knew, deep down, that she did not need his words. Kate had become the very embodiment of the strength and independence he had failed to recognize years ago. Outside, the city sun was bright, but Hayden felt a shadow within him, the shadow of all he had lost by letting pride, superficiality, and selfishness guide his decisions. And in that moment, he understood something he had ignored for too long. The calabash he discarded had returned, full of power, confidence, and dignity, and there was nothing he could do to take it back. The woman who once walked quietly behind him had risen, and Hayden was left standing in the dust of his own arrogance, realizing that life had a way of correcting injustice in ways that no man could predict. And in the quiet strength of that office, Kate
thrilled to be
glanced
here
at her
today to
watch,
discuss our new
smiled
opportunities.
faintly at her assistant,
We have an exciting
and
path
returned
forward.
to her work, completely aware of the storm she had left behind, a storm Hayden could not escape. The weeks after the business expansion were filled with excitement and quiet reflection. Kate had been growing more confident every day, her life now full of purpose and respect, but it wasn't just business that had changed. Daniel had been by her side through every challenge, offering guidance without ever diminishing her voice, his calm presence a steady anchor in the storms she had once faced alone. One crisp December evening, as the city lights twinkled below Ayatoro, Daniel led Kate to the rooftop garden of her company headquarters. Lanterns glowed softly along the path, and the scent of jasmine floated in the air. She smiled, thinking it was simply a celebration for the successful completion of a major shipment. But Daniel had other plans. Taking her hands gently in his, he looked deep into her eyes. "Kate," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I've watched you rise, build, and transform into a woman whose courage and intelligence inspire everyone around you, including me. I want to be by your side, not to hold you back, but to support, respect, and grow with you. Will you marry me?" Kate's heart leapt. The gesture was heartfelt, intimate, and completely aligned with the man she had come to love, thoughtful, steady, and unwavering. With tears glistening in her eyes, she whispered, "Yes, Daniel. Yes, I will." Months later, on Monday, February 14th, they exchanged vows in that same rooftop garden, bathed in the warm glow of sunrise. Their closest family and trusted colleagues gathered, making the ceremony intimate yet profound. Kate wore an ivory dress, elegantly fitted at the waist and flowing lightly to the ground, her hair framing her glowing face, and a delicate necklace catching the soft sunlight. Daniel, in a classic charcoal suit, stood tall and calm beside her, a gentle hand resting over hers. They spoke vows that celebrated partnership, respect, and shared dreams. When they sealed their union with a kiss, a quiet breeze swept over the rooftop, carrying a sense of triumph not just for their love, but for the lives they had each built independently, now intertwining into one shared path. Laughter and applause filled the air, mingling with soft music, while sunlight danced across the city below. From that day forward, Kate's mornings were deliberate and disciplined. She arrived at the company headquarters before sunrise, reviewing operations, negotiating contracts, and mentoring younger women who looked to her as a role model. Every detail of the business reflected her intelligence, patience, and vision. Beside her, Daniel, her husband, offered quiet balance. A steady presence who complemented her brilliance. Together, they had built a life rooted in respect, trust, and love, a life Hayden could never dismantle. And then came that Wednesday afternoon. Hayden walked into Kate's office again, since the first visit was unsuccessful. Earlier that day, back in the office, a letter arrived. Hayden had submitted his revised joint venture proposal after the first one failed. Kate scanned it quickly and noticed glaring errors, miscalculations, and outdated figures. She smiled faintly, not with malice, but with the satisfaction of knowing she had moved far beyond the man who once dismissed her. When Hayden entered the office, escorted by an assistant, he carried himself with practiced composure, but his eyes betrayed his nerves. The sleek, glass-walled conference room reflected the empire Kate had built from the remnants of past pain. She stood at the head of the table, cream suit perfectly tailored, hair sleek, posture straight, radiating unshakable power. Daniel stood beside her, silent but commanding, a living testament to the life she had chosen. "Mr. Hayden," Kate said calmly, gesturing to a seat. "Please have a seat. We were just reviewing the logistics for the Oyo shipment. We can discuss your proposal afterward." Hayden hesitated. He had imagined confrontation, pleas for understanding, perhaps even sympathy. Instead, he faced the reality of his loss, the life Kate had built without him. Daniel's presence amplified the truth. This was a partnership of equals, bound by trust, respect, and love, things Hayden had never valued. Kate reviewed his proposal thoroughly, pointing out inaccuracies, weak projections, and insufficient risk assessments. Every correction revealed the depth of her preparation and the precision of her judgment. Hayden faltered, attempting to assert authority, but every word he spoke was measured against her calm, unwavering gaze. She listened politely but left no room for excuses. "Hayden," she said softly, yet firmly, "I hope this teaches you a lesson about pride and superficial judgments. Respect and success are earned, not assumed. You may resubmit this proposal if you meet our standards fully, but until then, focus on rebuilding independently." Hayden left, humbled and silent. The sunlight outside reflected the harsh truth he had long avoided. He had lost not just a wife, but a partner whose worth he had underestimated. His pride had blinded him, and now he faced the consequences of his cruelty and shallow judgments. As Hayden walked away, Kate turned to Daniel, who took her hand, offering the warmth and support that had always been absent in her past. "You handled that perfectly," Daniel said, a soft smile on his face. "I had to," Kate replied. "Not for him. For us. For the life we've built." Together, they looked out over the bustling city, the thriving fields, and the offices that reflected Kate's vision. The past, Hayden's betrayal, and all the pain it had caused no longer held power over her. She had risen, transformed, and chosen herself. And in the quiet of that sunset, she whispered, "I am enough. I am strong. I am unstoppable." The calabash had returned full. Richer, wiser, and more radiant than anyone, especially Hayden, could have imagined. And in Ayatoro, her story became a lesson for all. True worth is measured not by appearance or convenience, but by courage, intelligence, and the power to rebuild oneself after betrayal. Kate had not only survived the storm, she had commanded it, transformed it, and emerged triumphant. Hayden would forever remember the consequences of his choices, while Kate lived fully, freely, and with a love that honored her strength and resilience. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hit that button.
See you next time.
All right, ready to dance?
Let's go! Woo! Like and subscribe.